Morning from the president's chief political advisor, Steve Bannon, says Mr. Trump's war with the news media is going to get worse. Bannon making a rare public speaking appearance today along with other top Trump administration officials. CNN congressional correspondent Phil Mattingly was at the event. He's still there outside Washington in suburban Maryland. Phil, we saw members of the Trump team showing unity with conservatives and with one another.
Yeah, that's exactly right. A clear effort right now to not only attach with the conservative movement, but also let everybody know that any reports you've seen about dissension within the White House, they're just not true. But there was also a bigger point here to make clear. President Trump's agenda was laid out during the campaign. He plans on following through on everything he said.
He's laid out an agenda with those speeches, with the promises he made, and our job every day is just to execute on that. And the mainstream media better understand something. All of those promises are going to be implemented.
President Trump's chief strategist, Steve Bannon, in his first public appearance since Trump took office, on stage with White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, dismissing any reports of division and promising to fight for the very agenda Trump laid out in the campaign.
He's going to continue to press his agenda. And as economic conditions get better, as more jobs get better, they're going to continue to fight. If you think they're going to give you your country back without a fight, you are sadly mistaken. Every day it is going to be a fight.
Bannon appearing with Priebus in a public display designed to tamp down an array of reports of dissension in the ranks.
In regard to us two, I think the biggest misconception is everything that you're reading.
Bannon and Priebus united in their belief that the press has been unfair to President Trump.
Just like they were dead wrong on the chaos of the campaign, and just like they were dead wrong in the chaos of the transition, they are absolutely dead wrong about what's going on today.
Adding public fuel to the fire that is at times engulfed an administration determined to undercut the media with repeated attacks. The Trump agenda now dominating the conservative gathering he skipped last year, where the Conservative Political Action Conference has become the Trump Political Action Conference.
By tomorrow, this will be CPAC.
With Trump now the face of the party and the conservative movement. Trump's team pledging to continue their push to roll back Obama-era rules, including last night's move to rescind guidance related to transgender use of student bathrooms.
This issue was a very huge example of the Obama administration's overreach to suggest a one-size-fits-all federal government approach.
Even as questions remain as to whether Trump, far from a traditional ideological conservative, can keep the party's elements together.
Can this Trump movement be combined with what's been happening at CPAC and other conservative movements for 50 years?
First of all, it has to, and we have to stick together as a team. The truth of the matter is, Donald Trump, President Trump, brought together the party and the conservative movement. And I've got to tell you, if the party and the conservative movement are together, similar to Steve and I, it can't be stopped.
And Wolf, you've been hearing that message repeatedly from administration officials throughout the day, a recognition that here at the Conservative Political Action Conference, these are the activists, these are the grassroots, and these are the people that need to be motivated at a moment where we're seeing town halls across the country with people raising concerns about the very agenda that they're pushing. It's something Vice President Mike Pence, Wolf, within the next hour will also try and convey to this crowd, get them fired up for an effort going forward that they believe will be good not just for conservatives, but for the entire Republican Party, Wolf.
All right, Phil, thank you. Phil Mattingly over at National Harbor, suburban Maryland, outside of Washington, D.C. He's at the conference. Let's bring in our political team. And Manu Raja, let me start with you. So we see Reince Priebus, Steve Bannon, looking at the list, Kellyanne Conway, the Vice President, Mike Pence, coming up in a little while. Tomorrow, the President will be there at that CPAC conference. Secretaries Tillerson and Kelly, they're in Mexico. Is the administration, trying to reset the agenda a bit?
It sounds that way. And what was common also about today, Donald Trump really hasn't tweeted. I mean, last time he tweeted, he did about half an hour ago, retweeted something about how the stock market is doing well, but has not taken his own administration off message. But I would say that there are things that the Trump administration is doing that is causing some concerns among his fellow Republicans. There are a lot of Republicans I talked to wonder why they picked this fight over the transgender bathroom guidelines, as well as it was interesting to hear Steve Bannon talk about a few things that he believes are critical to the Trump agenda. Cabinet nominees and getting rid of regulations, of course, unites Republicans. But talking about withdrawing from TPP, as well as immigration enforcement and building that wall along the border with Mexico, the deportations as well, those things don't necessarily unite the party, but Bannon views this as central to what Trump has already accomplished. It shows some disconnect between the administration and Capitol Hill.
Yeah, and we don't see, David, Steve Bannon publicly out there speaking publicly today, repeatedly referred to the news media as the opposition party. He's got his own message he's trying to convey.
He's got his own message, and this works out well for all concerned there, right? CPAC needs the Trump team to sort of maintain their relevance. The Trump team needs CPAC to seem more conservative than they actually are. Right now they're pursuing this sort of heavy-handed statist agenda, and it works well for Steve Bannon, who's a good communicator when he goes out there, even though he goes out rarely, to get that Trump message out.
Jackie, you wanted to weigh in.
I know. I just wanted to add something to what Manu said. While the transgender issue might be not popular with some Republicans, in that room, in that crowd at CPAC, what Trump did is actually very popular. When Kayleigh McEnany mentioned it, that the guidance had been rescinded, the crowd cheered. So you're talking about, and the kind of Pence wing of the party are very supportive of something like this.
The social conservatives.
The social conservatives are very supportive of rescinding those guidelines. So in terms of you're looking at what audience he's playing to, it's right there in that ballroom.
Abby, like all of us, you've seen all those reports over the past month of infighting in the White House. Clearly, by Steve Bannon, Reince Priebus showing up together today, they wanted to dispel those reports.
And this has been a project for the two of them for quite some time. They've been showing up at interviews together, getting on the phone together, talking about how they work together as a team. And you saw Reince Priebus describe it this way: the conservative movement represented by Bannon and the establishment GOP represented by Reince Priebus. The two of them merging together is supposed to create harmony both within the White House and outside of it. But it's important to remember that describing Bannon as the conservative movement is a little bit papering over what's really going on here. A few years ago, Steve Bannon was not invited to CPAC because he was so far out of even the activist mainstream. So Bannon represents a particular kind of conservatism that is more combative and more aggressive, and you know, their unity is for now really important for sort of the White House functioning as an institution, but it remains an open question. How long can this last? How long can they continue to walk?
But Jackie, it was interesting that at the start of that conversation that Reince Priebus had and Steve Bannon, Matt Schlapp, who's the chairman, we heard Steve Bannon joking about he used to be part of what they used to call the uninvited. Meaning that he was never invited to these kinds of events, and now he's there. And Donald Trump, who wasn't there last year as a candidate, a presidential candidate, he's going to be well received there tomorrow.
Not only are they there, they've taken over. Yes. The establishment doesn't really have a big presence. I think there was only one senator who is even speaking, and it's Senator Ted Cruz. So it really is a very different event than we've seen over the last, I mean, I'd say decade.
McConnell used to go to those things all the time.
Absolutely. So did Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan was the featured speaker. People lined up to see Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan isn't there either this year because of scheduling conflicts. So.